Good morning. I'd like to begin the February Tree Protection Board meeting. I first wish to recognize a new board member, Nathaniel Rice. Nathaniel is a certified arborist and a tree care professional in this town. We've known him for quite a while. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
You're welcome. First item of business is to approve or take questions about the meeting minutes from last month.
Move to approve. Second.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. First order of business is North Street. 209 West. But I figured there was only one North Street here.
Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Brett Deaton. I'm the owner of the practice on the corner of Pine and 78 there, West Fifth North Street.
Dr. Eaton.
What's that?
Dr. Eaton.
Dr. Deaton, yes,
Yes.
sir. Yes. You got me right. I have been practicing in that building right there for about 2 years. We are proposing to build a new state-of-the-art dental building behind it, in the property that, there. That will be the ultimate outcome right there that you're looking at. It does involve us removing a sweet gum on the corner of the property there, in order to make room for the other corner of the building. So that's why we're here today, to propose that sweet gum tree. And then, I don't know if it's available to you, but we have a landscape design where we'll be coming back with several trees, live oaks, great et cetera, to actually bring more trees to that area. Ultimately. Have actually been to the BZA. They approved our distal extension back there. We have submitted to the DRB last week and we'll be presenting to them. Next.
All right, we all visited there. Comments, questions?
Yeah, I think on the sweet gum, it's really a nice looking tree. And I don't think there was going to be any modifications to the drainage, stormwater, anything like that, other utilities that might affect the root system. I know we kind of looked at it as maybe even being a issue where you could do some pruning to kind of keep it away from the building more so. It's going to be a 2-story building, is that right?
Yes.
And is that the issue there, that it would just get into the roof of the building?
I think so. Maybe Adam, you can speak a little bit more about that, but yeah, I think that was the main concern.
Hi, I'm the project engineer on this project. And looking at it, we were trying to avoid too much encroachment into the tree protection area. I think it got up to close to 25%. I think it was around 22 or 23. And so, speaking with Brett and our landscape, David Tomlin, we just thought that it might improve the site to go ahead and remove this tree and mitigate with some other nicer trees. I know sweet gums aren't always, I know landscape architects, so forgive me if I'm wrong, but sweet gums aren't, the most sought after tree. So that was kind of our idea going forward with mitigating instead. But, yeah, I think that's
What kind of mitigation we're talking about if y'all went that route? Have you come up with any kind of?
Sure. So I think what you're seeing in front of you is the landscape architect's plan. We're proposing as much trees and shrubbery around the property, obviously in the 8-foot buffer area, and also towards the center and in front of the building. We're also proposing a kind of pocket park towards the Highway 78 to kind of improve that area and make it a more welcoming, pedestrian friendly area into the parking lot, and to also make that separation between the parking lot and Highway 78. So I wish David Tomlin were here to kind of speak on the mitigation part, but I know that's kind of the idea. for.
Okay, and these additional plantings that are proposed, those aren't required. They're just something that you're gonna add to the project.
I know that obviously the 8-foot buffer is required,
Mhm.
Around the parking area. I know the central ones, aren't technically required, but that's gonna help also help our vehicle movement throughout the parking lot. And then in front of the building, just to kind of modify and create more welcoming.
Yeah.
Entrance area.
Okay.
Building.
Just since we are having to build it in back and want that parking lot to be just like a industrial looking view
Right.
from the street. So we're trying to spruce it up as best as possible. Make it look more low country.
Okay.
What's the diameter of that tree?
If I'm reading your site plan correct, it looks like in the approximate location where the sweet gum is, that there's a live oak's gonna be potentially planted there. Is that correct?
Talking about several. It's kind of hard to read that, but it's all written right.
Okay.
Has even mitigation inch per inch been considered, Justin?
What, could you repeat that, please, Peter?
Has mitigation on an inch per inch basis been considered, or is the landscape plan more than compensate for that?
Just kind of the initial view of the landscape plan, it looks like it would compensate inch
Okay.
per inch for the sweet gum tree.
If that's a live oak to be placed in the position where the sweet gum is now, that might also be condemning the live oak to a questionable future as well. If there's something wrong with the position, I think the suggestion was already made that you could clean up the upper branches. We looked at that. We spent some time looking at that, and if there is no disruption to the drainage on the street side to the left of that tree in the picture, the nature of the surface to its right, which is basically a semi-pervious parking lot with compacted gravel, we don't know that the encroachment, and I forget the number of feet. Anybody have that handy? How close? You say it's 20% encroachment on that side. I guess a lot of us weren't concerned with that encroachment, given the circumstances of what the roots have had to put up with already, the health of the tree, as well as the optimal situation to the left of it on the street side with all kind of room for roots to grow. If there is no future disruption from drainage or anything else like that. So we didn't really feel that that tree was in terrible danger, but I'm not the only one thinking about that. Any other thoughts?
I concur. The tree, the sweet gum is healthy, it's attractive, and certainly it is a low country addition. Not everyone thinks that they're not appropriate. Some people do, I won't. So I don't see a need to remove that tree, and consequently, if chair is ready for a motion, I will make one. I move to deny the request to remove the sweet gum.
I can second that.
Is there any more discussion? Any more thoughts?
They were saying something about mitigation and you mentioned crepe myrtles. Crepe myrtles are not really considered a tree. So they're beautiful, they're nice, but it doesn't fall into that category as a tree.
I just wanted to say that I feel like I think the mitigation plan is appropriate. I don't think that sweet gum's gonna fare very well after construction. And I would be in favor of them removing it, especially if there was 100% mitigation with some oak trees.
I think if you don't remove it, we're gonna have to go back to the drawing board and probably a couple of the trees that you see in that plan there will not be able to be planted, just
Can you point out which ones you're speaking of? But
The ones on the corner there, I mean, obviously, we're not gonna plant a tree under a larger tree. It's not gonna make
Yeah.
it, so if we do end up having to keep that sweet gum, there will be some changes to that, and you probably see less live oaks on the property.
Justin, again, you said what they're proposing as far as mitigation, that would accomplish or take care of the numbers.
Yeah, a lot of that's required landscaping, as far as buffering and screening, but it does look from this plan like it would, equal out to be at least or more than 32 inches.
We'd of course be willing to change whatever we need to change on the landscape plan to accommodate mitigation further. That's the route. we go.
okay, we have a seconded motion. Is there an effort to, or a concern to amend that motion before we vote?
But we need to vote on the motion first, right?
Well, we can't vote on the motion and we can't amend the motion once it's voted on.
That's right. So we
Yeah.
need to vote on the motion. Isn't that correct?
I don't see senior staff here. I think.
I think you
Usually,
need to vote on that motion first. If I'm correct.
I'm okay. I'm not sure if we can amend it after that, so. But anyhow, we have a motion on the floor to leave the sweet gum in place. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
No.
I think I want to see a show of hands for that. Ayes? Noes? Motion fails. The tree stays. I mean, the tree was removed.
Thank you guys for your time.
We need to check on that protocol in the future. One 41 Gadsden Street.
Morning.
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 Doc and Sarah Frost, owners of 141 Gadsden Street. Designed for an installation. And we'd like to have several of these trees removed. Primarily a large pine tree that's directly in the middle of the pool plant. I think just about all of you were out for the spectators last week. There's also some very large magnolia trees that we have a large concern with as far as maintenance of the pool, and dropping leaves and they're big, whatever you saw there, they're bulbs. So we're asking for those magnolia trees and that one large pine tree here in the. Happy to take any questions.
And then there's two trees to allow for equipment to come in as well. Is that correct? A ornamental
There's a
cherry.
smaller tree up in front of the property. That's correct for compressing grass. Equipment, my understanding that tree's already been approved. I don't know how that it all goes. Okay.
And then there's a tree as you face the property to its right. On the street line, that is a water oak. I thought was also.
So
One,
that's not in the.
so it's just the ornamental cherry.
Correct.
Okay. So we're gonna go through the convention of the numbers of these trees before we start discussing. That's tree number 1. Tree number 2 is the sweet gum on the backside, the edge of the property. Tree number 3,
It's a
Magnolia.
excuse me, what did I say?
Yeah,
Sweet
number
gum.
2 is a magnolia.
That's sweet gum on the brain here, right? Last one. Tree number 3 is in the center of the pool footprint. Tree number 4 is a magnolia adjacent to the pool area, and tree number 5 is a large magnolia also to the periphery of the pool. thoughts? Suggested?
Well, I'll speak. Certainly the prunus, the cherry needs to be removed for the equipment to be able to get in. And the pine that's in I'm skipping number 2, Mr. Chairman.
That's
for
fine.
the moment. The pine, of course, is in the footprint of the pool and it warrants removal. It has to because of the pool. The magnolia number 4 has it included bark, well, it is codominant leaders with some included bark, and I believe there was some decay in that included bark. Is that not correct? There was decay, so I can warn you remove that. I do not see the need to remove tree number 5 for any structural or cultural reason. It's going to drop leaves and bulbs. Yes, it will, but I think that becomes a maintenance item. But what's important, it's in tree number 2, the magnolia, as you're coming in, also was initially, I thought was in very good shape, but we did notice a cavity up in one of the top leaders, and inspection of it from the ground did not tell us whether the extent of that cavity, whether it was causing the tree to be structurally unsound, or if it was if the decay was going to continue throughout the tree. So I'd like to recommend that whenever your arborists come to do the removals that they're going to do, if provided that this board approves them, that an arborist, that you notify the town arborist and coordinate with him so that he can be there. But have your arborist go up and inspect that cavity and describe to the town arborist what he sees. And so if between the 2 of them, or if the town arborist agrees that that cavity is of such an extent that it cannot be, it will not seal the wound and could put the tree at further risk in his mind to cause you problems, then he can then make the determination to remove or not remove that tree on site. So that's the compromise that I think we could achieve there. So to surmise, Mr. Chairman, I think for me to remove the cherry is fine, inspect the magnolia number 2, remove the pine is fine, remove magnolia number 4, and retain number 5.
I'd also like to add that it needs to be probably a certified arborist to come and inspect that magnolia, and not someone who did the pruning prior to that, uses spiked its way up the tree, which is not good for the tree. There's evidence that whoever did that pruning climbed it with spikes. That's not the way to go anymore unless you're going to take the tree down. I concur with those thoughts. Anybody else?
I agree with it as well.
That's a long-winded motion.
You want to do them individually?
No, well, we could.
So may I have the opportunity to speak prior to the motion?
Sure.
So I'd just like to get a little more clarification from the board on why magnolia number 4 would be appropriate, but yet not magnolia number 5. They're both adjacent to the pool area. And you mentioned that it's a maintenance issue, and that's potentially a very expensive maintenance issue. And so what I'd like to remind the board is that this plat that we're looking at here incorporates over an acre of land and numerous trees on this property, extending from Gadsden Street all the way through to Linwood Lane. So I know when you guys came out and did the site visit, no one went over and inspected the other side of the property. And so to me, I feel like that's a little bit of an issue, and we're looking at the small Gadsden Street property as far as total number of trees and that sort of thing. And I'm not sure that the board has fully contemplated the vast amount of trees on this property. and we're not asking for, you know, a high percentage of trees. My opinion, that if one of those magnolias 4 and 5 is appropriate for removal, I would feel like both of those are appropriate. If neither are, if, you know, if one is not appropriate, I don't understand the argument for one and not the other as well.
Because number 4 is in jeopardy from construction of the pool, has multiple surface roots, much of which will have to be cut. And that was the main issue, plus the fact that it was a codominant, which theoretically lends it to a greater chance of splitting out under certain circumstances. But magnolias are tough. However, the root system will be challenged. And that was basically my reason for not having any trouble removing number 4. Number 5, I just didn't see the threat of the threat of pollution of the pool from the leaves from that magnolia due to its position. We got a lot of requests to remove trees so things don't fall in the pool. You have to also remember that our mission is to save every tree possible, every tree canopy tree possible, irregardless of, if there are true issues with the tree, that's one thing. If there are not, irregardless of the number of trees on a piece of property, that is a relevant question at times, but isn't always ironclad. We obviously I haven't even gotten feedback from many others, how they feel about tree number 5. However, that's how I feel about tree number 5. But
Is there consideration for the peace and enjoyment of our pool while we're enjoying it? Because those magnolia leaves and those magnolia bulbs drop all the time. There's not a day that goes by that we don't have all of those in our yard. Now, obviously, I don't know if that changes with the removal of one of the magnolias, but I can imagine us just trying to enjoy our pool for a certain period of time, and it's just continuously getting inundated with magnolia leaves and bulbs. None of them bloom, because we have so much foliage back there. None of our magnolias, my grandmother had a magnolia in Florence that bloomed all the time, and none of our magnolias bloom. There's just so much back there that even the trees that we have, we don't get to enjoy the full benefits of them at this point. If they were to even bloom in the city, but I know that might not be y'all's concern.
Yeah, I think, when we look at a tree, if it's diseased, dying, dead, or a safety issue, that's kind of how we look at them, whether or not to allow removal. And I just don't think any of those really qualify for this tree. I don't see it being a safety issue because it's kind of tucked back a little bit in that bed back there, if I recall.
it's pretty distant. That was my feeling, that you wouldn't get the full bore influence of what's falling out of that tree. Yes, there'd be some, but again, I haven't walked the property.
Yeah, and I think that probably, what should have happened is I should have told my landscape people not to be there prior to your visit, so that when you were there, you would have seen all of the magnolia leaves and all of the debris all over where the pool is, right? Problem is that, we got regular landscaping to keep the property looking good, and it's relatively clean when you showed up. So, prior to, a full motion or whatever, I'd like to, discuss some mitigation if that can be part of the consideration. Again, we have a large piece of property here, and we're certainly willing to do any kind of a mitigation with planting new things. And, to whatever type of trees those need to be or where they need to be, we're open to discussion about all of that. But I agree with, the stated purpose of the board is to keep every tree possible, but I don't know that that's, number one, a fair assessment to property owners. And I definitely don't think that that's a fair assessment to other developments in the immediate area. When the Bonnier Park property across the way here has had every tree flattened out.
We hear this all the time. We have no control over that part, I'm afraid.
We don't have control of the tree.
On these large properties, no.
Why is that? It's inside the town, correct?
If it's a commercial property, we don't deal with it except in a very cursory way when there's very super duper grand trees to be looked at. I'm not sure exactly what property you're speaking of, but if it's commercial,
So
gonna
my
be-
understanding what your statement is that this tree protection board only has jurisdiction over residential properties. Is that-
it is that way mostly. We do get involved in some projects. Again, as I said, when nothing has happened, there's a significant population of significant grand trees. It's sort of a call whether we should be or not. I can't speak to the regulation that stipulates exactly what we can or cannot do. But to answer your question as accurately as I can, what we deal with principally, the vast majority of the time is residential. And if that's going to be a commercial subdivision, Bon Air, correct?
Half a block from here. The Bon Air Park, development's going right on Cedar Street.
Oh, the old Dorchester site. The hotel, quote unquote, the Dorchester.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. We looked at,
That's in the.
Right,
very
it is.
Center of town, we'll all agree about that, that's in the historic district.
we looked
So
at that.
I guess what I'm just trying to understand, that what you're saying is that this board doesn't have a jurisdiction over commercial properties, only over residential, I'm just trying to understand. Is that-
We
is that-
have
is that the understanding?
Basically, we visited that property at the request of, I forget exactly whom, in town, and, that was a tough one because of what they chose to build. Because the different constraints exist for number of acres or number of percentage of pervious space versus non-pervious space. When you got a bunch of buildings and apartments, it sort of precludes planning for, leaving some trees. Because most of the time, those trees die from the disruption, as you saw with the discussion, we had one of those sweet gum on North Street. Not little, it's pretty big, but there's two sides to every story. That there was it's a highly dense establishment. Those are why the rules are changed. And deference is given to the presence of those kind of developments. We have nothing to do with that selection. Absolutely nothing. So that's the best way I can answer the question. If someone has a better way to respond, please interrupt. Do you have any problem with wanting to evaluate tree number 2, the sweet gum with a hole in it?
Question about that. So I don't know if we received any type of quote on what it would cost for an arborist to go up there and do an evaluation, but would the request from the board be that we have that done and then come back and reconvene again? Is that the?
No, it was that the arborist would come in consort with his visit and they decide on the spot.
To clarify, we would hire our own.
Our own arborist. That's what I was-
In
okay.
conjunction.
Right.
The person, forgive me, the company that you were going to hire, and the name of it was mentioned to do the removals are not certified arborists, I don't believe, which is why I wasn't, rather than you having to hire a separate certified arborist and produce documentation, I thought we could, just coordinate that effort when they come to remove the trees that are approved. Part of what they could do is coordinate that timing with the town arborist so that he could be there and the person they'd have to send a person up the tree to take it down anyway. That they could then inspect that cavity and let the town arborist know what's going on with it. And then he can determine, no, that cavity is fine and it's not going to cause any further problems with the tree. Or yes, it is going to be a problem and therefore you can remove the tree while you're here. We'd leave that determination up to the town arborist. That was an effort to make life easier for you all.
I'm just clarifying, we could use the same tree guy, it would just be in conjunction with the town arborist.
Correct.
We wouldn't have to hire us.
Correct. Correct.
No, that's not what I understand. We would need to hire our own separate arborist, right, in conjunction with the town's arborist. Or that's not what you're saying.
No, I think we're almost understanding one another. You don't have, the company that you're gonna use to remove the trees, they've got to come remove the trees anyway, the ones that are approved. While, they're not certified arborists, so I don't want to trust their opinion to assess, to write a letter to us saying, you know, this tree is fine. I don't think if they're not certified arborists, they're not qualified. However, they are qualified to go up there and describe what they see, take a photograph if need be on their phone, show it to the town arborist who will be on site, and he will then determine whether or not the tree can stay or not. That an effort to so that you don't have to hire yet another arborist.
Thank you. That clarification.
As long as they don't spike themselves their way up the tree. If that's at all possible, that's why the emphasis of certified arborists, because they're equipped to go up a tree with pulleys and all the rest of that. They don't have to use spikes to get up the tree, because that's just gonna threaten the tree that much more, which we won't know if that's a problem, except years from now. Anyhow, I just wanted to add that once more time. I would think that if anybody even got up there, they would want to cut that leader out anyhow.
Right, they'll probably want to remove it, and the question is, will it
How
seal
far has the
and
rock
be
gone
fine?
down?
Or is it so extensive that the whole tree needs to come out? I don't think anybody can make that determination just looking at it if we're looking at the tree from a structural integrity perspective.
Any other opinions and thoughts?
I think that, obviously the access tree is number one is a given. Number two, I agree with that, what everybody said, you know, have it looked at. And if Justin determines that it's not safe to take it, 3 and 4 have to go for sure. 5 is like right on that borderline of effect in relation to the construction of the pool. And I can totally understand the maintenance issues and just the problems that could arise from it. It could possibly be damaged a little bit if the only way that I would be comfortable with letting that tree go is if mitigation was required.
Justin, is there room to mitigate on the property? Inch for inch?
Probably not.
I mean, potentially, but it is a pretty wooded site. As you remember when we were out there. Can you answer that question? Do you have areas that could be potential planting sites for trees?
On the Linwood side, you do, in the backyard of the Linwood property. I looked in there.
I think the front yard has some space for some additions as well.
Yeah, I think there's more than enough room for mitigation.
You know, I didn't count them. Do you have any idea, Jack, how many magnolias is on the lot?
Huh?
How many magnolias? I mean, it's substantial other trees between the two lots.
Yeah, there's a lot of trees, and to answer your question, no, I have not counted all of them. We got a ton of trees. We're certainly open to planting more. We're just trying to get these ones near the pool removed so they don't cause a maintenance issue, either ongoing regular maintenance from leaves and debris, but also from a root standpoint of structural integrity. So, I think with over an acre of land there and the numerous trees we have there, it's my opinion, but I own the property, and I think we have plenty of room to add more. That's what the board is, but.
Right and left side of the. So that Linwood property is covered in trees as well.
And I agree with you that magnolias are messy. I have one magnolia tree in my yard, and we're talking about several. And I'm out trying to keep mine clean almost daily.
When we were building the back porch, we had leaves and stuff in the back porch every day until we finally screened it, and we still get some.
Well, tree number 4 is gonna definitely have, severe root damage, and I'm kind of like Nathaniel, 5. It's sort of difficult choice. I could go
Yeah,
either
it
way
is.
with 5. I mean.
There's no way I could, but you've already said you would. I know why I could agree with removing 5 unless it was, substantial compensatory mitigation. I understand the issues. I have I have more than one messy magnolia tree in my yard. I don't have a pool. I guess they do stand in a class of their own in terms of what they deposit on the ground and when. So number 5 is quite obviously is a tough one for us. It's a perfectly healthy tree. There's nothing wrong with it. It's so much better looking than number 4 rather. No, 2. 2 seemed far enough away that it wasn't a huge threat for dumping stuff into the pond, I believe. And that's why we spent more time looking at it and found the cavity. So
What was the DBH of number 5?
no,
DBH.
Justin,
20-inch. It's a 20-inch DBH.
inch.
Yes.
How was your thinking anything?
No, if, with proper mitigation, it's not my preference,
Yes,
but with proper mitigation, I can go along with the board on removing number 5. I too have lots of magnolias on my property and, the only time they're a real problem for me is in May when they flush out,
yeah,
put out new leaves.
That's right.
The only time they're a problem. But
Goes
it's a
on for
problem that
months.
I happily live with, but I understand tastes are different. So I would go along with the reduction, removal of number 5 if mitigation is made.
I'm gonna make a motion that we approve removal of tree number 1, tree number 3, tree number 4, and tree number 5, provided that adequate mitigation is arranged with our arborist, Justin.
Did you not include tree number 2?
Tree number 2 is the sweet gum that we're gonna inspect. So if I've said it wrong, I'll do it again. Tree
Mr.
number
Mac-
1, tree number 3, tree number 4, and tree number 5. Did not include number 2.
Mr. Chairman, should you add to your motion that tree number 2, the thing about the
Yes.
inspection and all that?
So if you can just stick it in between the sentence, you approve number 1, number 2, removal provided the cavity is a substantial threat to the future of the tree's existence. And then tree number 3 and tree number 4 and tree number 5 provided for the mitigation for tree number 5.
How much mitigation?
That is usually determined by the arborist. I don't know whether 1-for-1 is possible here. And we usually, if it's not possible, now that there's no longer the possibility to contribute to the tree bank, thanks to some former members of council, we simply do what's reasonable. Correct?
That's correct. We look at site conditions and availability, and we can coordinate afterwards.
That was a long motion. I still haven't heard a second.
Second it.
Oh, 3 of them. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. You're welcome.
Thank
You
you. Could
too.
you do the same?
Okay, we have country, I don't see it here. Country Club Drive,
Yeah, 412.
412. There is no one here to represent 412. So we will get into the discussion among ourselves. I think Danny has the most active thoughts about where we might go with this. Let me start with you.
Well, yeah, I'm happy to explain to share what I was thinking, but Justin, would you brief us on what you've been through and what our possibilities are, if you would?
Yeah, so the request was for the 29-inch red oak that sits in the footprint of the pool. When we did the site visit, we were told there would be an extensive amount of grading that extended well over to the side and front of the property. The limits of disturbance, we don't know yet. We have requested an updated site plan. I have not received that yet. So what's requested at the moment is the 29-inch red oak. And we will see when the updated site plan comes back, just how much encroachment on the existing trees, kind of down in this area, if you look at the map, and these trees along the side. Also worth noting, there was another tree requested, the 26-inch pine on the perimeter, had a large canker in it, looked structurally compromised. So at the moment, we're looking at the two trees. As far as the existing and proposed grade, that would be reviewed with the swimming pool permit that is attached to this tree removal permit. So that's what's in question at the moment, is exactly the extent of work being performed in the backyard.
So, Mr. Chairman, my thinking is, and I haven't quite got it all sorted out in my brain, but if we could approve the removal of the tree that's in the pool footprint today, I mean, we can do that. But the applicant had those designs and thoughts about a complete regrading of the yard to accommodate a pool house and all that, and a retaining wall, all manner of things. And just my experience with construction projects is, and site work, is that once you get started, things tend to change. Things can change, and you need to make alterations to your plan. So I'm reluctant to approve the removal of the one tree until I know exactly what's going to happen with the rest of the property. It just, I just think things can just change. I've seen it many, many times. And if there were no changes, or if there was no plan for the pool house or a retaining wall, then I might be fine to do the removal. But there's just possibility of too many changes in the future, including, if the degree of the change is so great, I don't know what the country club is going to say about changing the drainage flow onto that part of the golf course. They may not care at all, but there's lots of factors.
Yeah.
And so I'm reluctant to approve it with that in mind.
Pretty extreme. There's a lot of topography there. And plus he said he wanted to keep the soil on the property. Well, that's a bunch of soil.
Mhm.
That'd be more than enough to do beyond what he'd hope can do with it.
Yeah, I agree with Danny on that. Just, it'd be nice to have the entire plan laid out in front of us so we can see what's going to happen with the soil and all that. Because I feel like if we act today on this tree, or both trees or whatever, then we'll end up having to come back later on and because I know there'll be some encroachments into these other trees with soil or whatever. And then we'll have to make some other decisions then. So I'd just rather have all this come at one time, in my opinion.
Mhm.
I was concerned about this wall that they were wanted to put in, and how close that would be to these other trees. And they're protecting the root system of those trees. I just was afraid that they would be damaged or the wall would go up too late. There were just those concerns and questions that I don't have answers to.
In addition to the diagram shown there for the pool house is really parking for a golf cart. with the future intention of that site being for a pool house. Is that correct? Is that what was?
Yeah, I don't know if one comes before the other or not.
Chicken and egg, right? So, yeah, there's a lot of doubt about it, so I feel comfortable concurring with you all. Any other thoughts?
Could we also request a health grading on these other trees? And that'll help us, see what all the construction and grading plan is actually gonna affect. Which ones are in good health and which ones are not in good health.
The ones adjacent to the golf course in particular, or more to the perimeter of the property on the right-hand side, or both?
I think all three sides so that we have a good understanding of what's viable and what's not.
Yeah, we didn't look at all the rest of the trees, though.
Well, we don't know what the grading, how far that will
Right.
go and how much dirt they're going to move. He said he wanted to use the dirt.
Yeah.
And just relocating it
So
and how much damage to root systems.
we need to wait for the drainage plan.
Let me, Daniel, is, in your estimation, and I understand that this is in the country club, but in your estimation, is that an undue cost burden? Would grading all those trees in that backyard be an undue cost burden for this sort of thing? I mean, I don't know if it is or not.
If it's a quick health grading, not a full-on assessment of each one, it shouldn't be bad, just to go through them and know, okay. Cause I noticed a couple of them that also have, pretty significant wounds on them. And so they're probably not, great trees to have on the property. So understanding which ones were probably gonna be a loss.
So just a
anyways.
class one assessment?
Exactly, yeah.
A class one
Yeah,
assessment.
That way it's an affordable assessment.
Okay, yeah,
You're
that
good.
sounds like, actually, it sounds like a good idea to me.
Okay. You want to make the motion?
See if I can piece that together.
Yeah, well, you started it, so you spoke first, so you.
Yeah.
You did do
I
it.
know I'm guilty. So I move that we
Defer.
defer, thank you, I was kept wanting to say table, that we defer judgment, on this application until such time as we have more final plans on the final grading and a class one assessment of the remaining trees in the backyard.
I'll second that. Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Is there another motion?
Move to adjourn?
I'll second that.
All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.